All right. Hello. Yes, it's Zach Esden. And I know most of you are like, who is that guy? I haven't seen him in so long. Uh, yeah. I'm in my final semester of seminary, um, and it is busy. Every I've noticed in every one of these videos I've said, man, this is so busy, and it's so much harder than the last semester. Well, I can safely say that this is the busiest semester, and um, as far as school goes, it'll never get busier than this. So that is exciting. Yeah, it's been a long time. So I saw most of you in January while I was in Alabama. So I'll kind of give you a run up of what's been going on since January. Um, I took 5 classes this summer, or this semester. I took evangelism and discipleship. I took pastoral ministry, and I took church revitalization, and then I took a world missions class and a sexual ethics and bioethics class. Um, and I've loved all of those classes. Pastoral ministry is kind of like the most practical class you take at seminary as far as being a pastor. So we learn things on like how to do weddings, how to do funerals. Um, so that's fun. So if you need one of those, preferably the wedding, uh, I can do those now. And then there are some other things you learn in there, like finances, how to, uh, you know, set up a salary when you're applying to a church. So that's been a really practical class and it's been really good. We've also talked a lot about like um, how to do pastoral care. So things to say when you go into a hospital room, or how to follow up with people after like a loved one has passed, and things like that. And so yeah, that's been a really great class. It's one of those classes that I wish they would expand into like 3 semesters instead of just one. Um, so pastoral ministry is one of my favorites. Then there are then there's church revitalization. I'm going to come back to that one. That one's a good one. Anyway, evangelism and discipleship has been a great class because it just teaches about things I'm really passionate about. And um, one of the cool things about church evangelism and discipleship is that one of the assignments was that we have to write four letters to a non-Christian. And so I have this friend, his name is Rob. He works for the United States Postal Service. So I work on campus at our mailroom, and we get our mail from the United States Postal Service, so we connected that way. Um, and so we've, just kind of become friends, gone out to eat together. He's come over to my house a few times. Um, and so we're supposed to write these letters to each other, or I'm supposed to write letters to him. He responds back to me. Um, and there's 4 letters, and they kind of you're writing under this premise of, hey, I have this assignment for class, and it's to share my faith, but to make it clear to someone that hasn't grown up in the church. He hasn't grown up in the church, so it was a perfect opportunity. So the first letter was like my God story, like how I became a Christian, how I've seen God work in my life. So I wrote that letter, and then the second letter was what is sin and evil, and why is it in the world? So then I wrote another letter explaining what is sin, what is evil, who we are, how we're affected by it, and I sent that letter, and then he gave me responses on that. And then the next letter was a Good Friday letter, like why do we celebrate Good Friday? What does it mean that Jesus died on the cross for us? So again, a gospel presentation in a letter, and then he reads it, and then he responds back to it. And then the final letter was the Easter, why the resurrection is important and what it's done in our lives. So, perfect timing as Easter was last weekend. And yeah, so that was just a really awesome thing. So we've been able to have a ton of conversations. And yeah, I'm just praying that God continues to work in his heart and in his life. He asked some good questions. He asked some questions I have no idea how to answer. But yeah, so that's been going really well. So that is evangelism and discipleship. And then there's just discipleship, which I really have grown in passion for. I loved doing it when I was at Trinity in Alabama, but now I've gotten a little more experience and a couple more ideas, and so I'm just pretty excited about that, and excited to really implement that in the future. So evangelism and discipleship has been a good class, and then it's called Christian sexual ethics and bioethics, but it's just like how do we respond to different things like homosexuality, transgender, um, bioethics. What do we do with cloning? How do we handle the issues of abortion? And not just like what is our position, but how do we intelligently respond to people that have different opinions? And kind of there's a lot of science as well in that class, because if we're going to be have an opinion, we should have an informed opinion. So that's been a really interesting class, and it's been really good to just dwell on those things and really see how pastoral care gets into that, because we have these. Jesus is a great example of this. He has an ethic and a theology that he never deviates from. So he knows what's right and he knows what's wrong, and he holds firm to those. But at the same time, he shows incredible compassion and care when he's engaging with sinners. And so, Jesus comes into the house of the Pharisee, and the Pharisee doesn't wash his feet. And so they're eating, and then this prostitute comes in, and the prostitute starts weeping and kissing his feet and cleaning his feet with her hair and pouring perfume on that. And if we pause right there, then we have this question of like, okay, what is Jesus about to do here? Because if we remember, this woman is a woman of the city. She's a prostitute, and she's touching Jesus, which is even in our culture, that would be a thing that would be frowned upon. But she's also really using the tools of her trade on Jesus, right? She is pouring perfume. She's kissing him. She's using her hair. Like, these are all things that are that are tools of the trade. And so, but Jesus doesn't respond by pushing her away or distancing himself from her, right? He acknowledges what is right and wrong. He says, while this woman's sins are many, he still has compassion on her. And so how do we as Christians live in that is something that I've been really wrestling through. For this ethics class, I wrote on transgenders, and how do we respond to transgenders in our church, or how do we respond to transgenders in our workplace, and seeing how we can be confident in holding what we know is right and wrong, right? We can see that God has given us a definition of what man and woman are supposed to be. We see this in creation as he creates Adam and Eve, but we also see how Jesus understands that our world has been affected by sin, and because it's been affected by sin, he has compassion, not on the sin, but on the person, right? And so he says, man, in God's perfect design, this woman shouldn't be a prostitute, but she is, because man has fallen and sin has affected everything that we do. So he, in one hand, holds what's right and wrong, and in the other hand, he has compassion. And by having compassion, he's able to bring that woman closer to what is right and wrong. And so we really see the love of Jesus in that. So just thinking about how I can live that out in the world and in my life has been really great for that class. The World Missions class is great. We've just kind of been going through just kind of a run-of-the-mill theology of missions and why we do it and how we do it. It's pretty cool. That professor is world famous. His name is Dr. Kuzmich, and he is he is a I don't know. He's almost never on campus because he's always in like Croatia or in Serbia or like these old USSR countries as a diplomatic peacemaker. So he is he's met all of these people, and he's often called in for like peace talks and like ceasefires and things like that. Like he's one of the main guys in those offices. He tells this one story that's just kind of crazy about how um, he's been called into uh, the presidential office of the guy from Croatia. And so the president of Croatia calls him in and asks him to be the ambassador for Croatia. And he turns to him with a straight face and he says, "I'm already an ambassador." And then the Croatian president turns to his like Secretary of State and he's like, "How did we not vet this? Like someone's in trouble." And then Kuzmic, he responds back and he says, "I'm an ambassador of Jesus Christ." And then he proceeds to share the gospel with this president. And so he has a ton of stories like that, and it's pretty cool. So anyway, I'm at 11 minutes already, so let me jump to church revitalization, then to what Zach's doing in life, and then I'll end the video. So sorry it's long. Hopefully you got time to listen to it. If not, whatever. So church revitalization has been a cool class. It's really focused towards New England, but there's a lot of things I think the South could learn, and the rest of the country could really learn. But it's really talking about churches that have died or are on the process of dying, how to like bring new life to them. One of the great ways to measure the health of a church is to look and see, is like, are actual new Christians coming into your church? Is it producing new disciples? So often our churches get distracted with new membership, but when the membership is just another Christian, changing membership or moving to your town, that doesn't always tell you the health of the church. And so church revitalization is about how we can get our churches to, especially New England churches, to stop acting like the typical New England church is often pretty old, and it's been there for so long. These churches have been here for 250 years. And they're often saying like, we've been here this long. No one's coming to our church, but they'll come back eventually. And that's just not true. Is more and more people are living complete lives without even stepping into a church. They don't come to church anymore, so we can't expect to attract them in with the same old, hey, we're church. So church revitalization is about how do we get our congregation to see that they have to be missional, and that it isn't the pastor's job to be the evangelist, but it really relies on everyone that attends the church to be the people going out and sharing the gospel. So we talk about that. We also talk about leadership and how to pick values that are good values. And then the other half of the class is really about how when you go into a church that is dying and that's old, is assessing what things are valued very highly and what things are not. Because as a pastor, you're trying to change things to make the church line up with the pastor's vision, which he feels is the call of the thing that God's been leading him to do. So the pastor's leading the church towards Christ. It's really about assessing like what things can we address and what things do we have to wait on. So it's been a really cool class. Through this class, I have been presented with an internship after I graduate from seminary. I'm sure many of you are asking, Zach, what are you going to do after seminary? That is a great question. Unfortunately, it's a question every single person asks me. So I've thought about like writing them down on a card and be like, here's a card. I get this question so often I don't want to answer it anymore. But yeah, so I don't exactly know what I'm going to do afterwards. I don't know where I'm going to work or those kind of things. But this internship is just for the summer, but I think it could extend depending on what happens while I'm there. But it's in North Adams, Massachusetts, and it's this church that is in the process of growing. They've really done a lot of good things in the last couple of years, and they're seeing a lot of fruit. And the pastor is real solid, really down to earth guy. But basically, they need somebody to help out. So it's a internship where I'd probably be doing mostly like an associate pastor position of preaching pretty occasional, like pretty often, but also like doing things like discipleship, Bible studies. Um, they're in the process of transferring. They're an old Baptist church, so they're transferring from uh, a lot of like boards and like kind of a convoluted governance structure to more of a simpler like here's a bunch of elders and they're kind of overseeing people that are in charge of these different ministries. So they're trying to go to a simpler model. So that's really exciting because I'm kind of passionate about like elder-led churches. I see that as being like, especially for small churches, under 250 people, as being like pretty much the prime way. And we see that a lot in the early churches. Like there's elders, and the elders will elect, like they elect Stephen to carry out the ministry of feeding the widows and the poor. So anyway, I'm excited about that. So they're doing some cool stuff during the summer. They own a camp, and so they have like Christian camps there in the summer. So there's a lot of places for me to get involved and a lot of places for me to teach. And so I'm really excited about that. So I'm praying about it. I haven't given them a yes or a no yet, but it's kind of been offered to me. So I'm just sitting on it. I want to pray about it. I want to talk to some people about it. But yeah, so that's pretty exciting. Graduation is on May 13th or May 12th. I can't remember. Oh, it's one of those days. It's the weekend. And so, yeah, that's coming up. It's April 20th today. April 28th is when all of my written work is due. So I really have only one big paper left and then a bunch of small papers. So praise the Lord for that. God's been really faithful with that. Man, God's been faithful with a lot of things. Thank you guys so much for supporting me with prayers and finances. It is just a blessing that I haven't been burdened with debt and stuff. I'm hanging out with a friend today that him and his wife are going to graduate seminary and go into ministry, and they have $90,000 of debt, and it's just like, that's a really hard thing that's really going to narrow where God, narrow your options, I guess. And so I'm grateful that you guys have partnered with me in that, and you partnered with me in my ministry, but also just in giving me the freedom to really follow where I think God's calling me. And so I'm truly grateful to you for that. And I really thank you guys for your support and your prayers. And just the love and that I feel anytime I see you guys. I really appreciate that. Again, I'm sorry that this is long, that this is overdue, some of you I'll probably see at graduation, so I'm excited about that. Thanks for visiting me and coming up. I hope to make it around to see everybody after seminary is over. Hopefully get down to Alabama. Hopefully get back to Vermont. So some things you can pray for me for is one, just a transition time. I'm moving out of a place that I've been living for 3 years. I'm going to be saying goodbye to a lot of dear friends, and that's going to be really hard. I really, really struggled when I left Alabama to move here, was just saying goodbye to, friends that I had known for 7 or 8 years and that I had gotten to see grow up, people that had gotten to see me grow up. And, and so I'm going to have to do it again. And that's hard. But I think Earl says that saying goodbye is part of the Christian life. But we don't say, see you never, we see you later, because we will see each other again. If not in this life, maybe definitely in the next life. And so, so there's some joy and hope in that as well. So you can pray for my transitions. You can continue to pray for my heart, that it'll just continue to be shaped and molded by God. That's one thing that I really, is probably the biggest prayer for this summer, is just like, um, I honestly just, I don't feel that my heart is ready to go into like full-time ministry. Like, I'm not ready to be a pastor yet. That's why I'm really excited about this internship. It's just like seminary has kind of burnt me out a little bit. I just feel a little tired, and I really just want to be able to really rest in God, and just and really commune with Him over this summer before I, really try to get into the full-time ministry game. So yeah, if you could just pray for that God will just continue to align my heart to Him. It's been great to look back over these 3 years and see how He's doing that. But I also just want to take some time off or not time off, because obviously I'll be doing ministry in the internship, but just kind of take some time to really pray and think through and decompress. I've learned so much in seminary, but haven't had time to like sit on it. So I have all of those books here and here that I want to read. That's my bookshelf of when I'm done with seminary. So hopefully I can make a good chunk of that disappear this summer. But yeah, so pray for transitions, pray for a continuing of God shaping my heart to the man that He wants me to be. And then 3, yeah, just for ministry opportunities, and that God will clearly show me where to go. Yeah, there's no Bible verses that tell you, this is a job you need to take, or this is where you need to move, or that kind of thing. So it's definitely about listening and discerning the will of God. And I'm hoping, well, I know that He'll be faithful to that. I'm just, I would ask for prayer in that as I try to discern God's will in that. Anyway, I love you, family. Thank you so much for your love and your support. And yeah, I'm excited to take this next step in my path, and I'm excited that you guys have been faithful partners in that as well. And I hope that you guys get to rejoice in all of the fruit that we see in ministry in the future, and know that, yeah, God is using me to build His kingdom. He's using you as well. And that's the exciting part, is that, when we get to the end of our days, we'll be able to look back and rejoice and see how God has been so faithful through us. And He's used us as tools to bring His glory, and we will just be super excited about that, because we'll be able to look and see what God has done. So yeah, anyway, that's it. Well, we're in a snowstorm, so we got a snow day, which means that yeah, I can study a little bit. I'm going up the hill to eat with some friends, and then yeah, back to the study and grind. Pretty fun. That's where I live, by the way, right there.